of a cone, SA equals. So first off, we have the base, and the base is a circle. So to start off with, we have pi r squared plus, and then we'd have to find the area of this part of this circle that's created when it goes around the outside edge here. So remember, it's not a full circle. So what ends up happening is we still have that we still have that pi. And then the radius this time, though, is that slant height that's going up the side of that. And we multiply it by the radius, so radius times, and then we do that cursive L for slant height, just like we did with pyramids. And that comes from the idea of we're using only parts of the circle. We could go into depth about how we used it as a fraction for part, and how the fractions cancel out, and then instead of doing L squared, that's the way it is. Okay, so big thing here is that R is the radius. And that cursive L is slant height. So if you want to use two colors today as we work to show kind of the difference between those two, you can. I'm just going to use orange and blue. So I'm going to use orange for my radius. And then I'm going to use light blue for my slant height. Alright, you're going to get a glue in. We just have two examples today. So when you get your glue in, just glue it in on the left or right side. Alright, so you should be able to glue that in left or right side. And then you want to grab two colored pencils today. At the end of this chapter, the biggest thing is that formula. So for sure get that formula written down, because that's at least something where we can start to kind of help you. Alright, give you about 10-15 more seconds to get ready, and then we are starting. Alright. As we take a look, the only two things that we need to find is the radius, the R, and the cursive L, the slant height. Alright, so as we take a look at our radius, what is our radius here of the base? We're looking at that circle, and remember radius goes how far across? Halfway or a whole way? Yeah, just the halfway. So just this 12 is that radius. And then our slant height, remember slant height is what goes up the side. And so remember we talked about that last week, how height sometimes isn't always how tall something is from top to bottom. When we talk about height, it's if we take that base and we put that base on the bottom. So this time when we talk about this slant height going up the side, in this case that slant height is actually going up the side, off to the side there. So our slant height is that 26.8. It's what connects the circle, the base, to the vertex of that cone, the point of the cone. As soon as we have those two things, it's just plugging it into the formula. So today's pretty straightforward. It's just making sure we identify those two things correctly. So surface area equals, and it goes pi, and then our radius squared. So radius is 12. Plus, and again we have another pi, and then it goes radius times the slant height. So radius again is 12. And then times our slant height, 26.8. Because we're using pi in our problems and we're multiplying by pi, what kind of numbers will we end up with as answers before we even put it in our calculator? What do we know about those problems, those answers? Yeah, we're going to get decimals. They're going to be irrational. Because remember, pi goes on forever and ever and ever, never ends, never repeats. So because we get decimals, we're going to have to round today. And today we're just going to round to the nearest tenth. So nearest tenth means 1 decimal place. All right, so we get pi times 12 squared. That's the circle. Now the outside part is plus pi times 12 times 26.8. Alright, and I wanted to type that in so you could see that I typed in that whole thing. We get 1462.72. So do we want to keep it at 0.7 or switch it to 0.8? Good, keep it at 0.7. So 1462.7. And we're still measuring area, so it'd be square feet. All right, pretty straightforward. Feeling good? All right, same thing with the next one. This one, the biggest thing is that it looks a little different. Instead of it being on its side, it's now upside down. That circle's on the bottom. So what is our radius of our circle? Is 18 the radius? Remember, radius is only half. So our radius is an 18. We need to do 18 divided by 2. And we get 9. And really that's like the main reason why we did a second problem, is just to remind us that radius is only halfway. And that's a really big thing. Here it was half, so we just used the 12. This one, it was 18 was the whole length, so we needed to divide by 2. All right, slant height is that height going up the corner or up the side from the circle to the vertex, the base, to the point. And then it's just plugging it in the formula. So remember the formula, anything that's there that numbers-wise, those numbers always stay. We're always going to switch out the variables for other parts. Pi is a number, so even though that might look to you like a variable, pi we keep, so pi times our radius squared, so 9 squared, plus, and then it goes pi times radius times our slant height. Again, I would for sure use Desmos for this. Our Desmos calculator is going to plug in things correctly, as well as those of you that are sophomores this year, your junior year, Desmos will be the MCA calculator. Next year will be the first year that it's actually the MCA calculator. Very exciting stuff. Okay. Especially if you already have your Desmos open and you've already plugged it in, you can just delete the different parts. You don't have to type in everything again. Unless you screw it up like I did. And we get 822, and now we're going to keep that 0.7 or switch to 0.8. There we go. And switch to 0.8 because after the 7 is an 8, so that tells us to round up. So our surface area was 822.8. Square kilometers. All right, and that actually brings us to the end of the first half of chapter 12. That was surface area. So now we're going to go through and do all those shapes again, but as volumes. And then we have 2 extra lessons at the end to take down. How exciting. We're done with the first half. No, not exciting?